Hey, what's up there, folks? This is Jonathan coming back in front of a camera for the first time in over a month to bring on a new sort of segment for my channel, movie vlogs. And I just went and saw Prometheus a couple of hours ago, and I'll give my thoughts on it. First thing I want to say is I did see it in 3D because I got the times mixed up in the theater. The one we could go see right then was in 3D. I wasn't happy about it at first, but it turns out the 3D is good, possibly because it wasn't made that way post-production, because Ridley Scott actually did shoot it in 3D. So that's a good part. Overall, the film looked incredibly gorgeous. The CG was great. The locations were wonderful. Everything just looked really well done. And another thing, there's been debate over whether this is an Alien prequel or not, considering that this does take place in the Alien universe. I mean, hell, even the opening sequence, the way the letters appear, is very reminiscent of Alien. It's exactly the same way, except it spells Prometheus, obviously. I would call this an Alien side story, more like a space jockey movie, because we finally get an explanation as to who the space jockeys are. In fact, I'm going to spoil it. They are our creators. They sent one of their own down there, and by the way, the way they look in Alien, that thing over the face, that huge freaking bulge and shit, it's actually just a helmet and some armor. Take that all off, they look big, really, really tall, and white. Kind of like how Kratos would look without the tattoos, I guess, and the scars, and the constant freaking grimace. So they're just big, tall, white, humanoid-like things, muscular humanoid-like things, and hairless too. So they created us. One of them sacrificed himself to get the DNA into the water, but then somewhere down the line they decided, they're going to take us out. That plan didn't go well, and then once, they find human beings, find the cave paintings that lead that point to the star map that lead them to LV-223. It's not LV-426 from the Alien movies, specifically Alien and Aliens. Yes, it's more of a space jockey movie than anything, and it tries to answer a lot of questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? Is there any need for God? Which is something that people, even as a not so perfect Catholic like myself, would think about from time to time. Who created us? So who created them? Yada 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 yada. It just kind of skirts on those things and doesn't really bring that up. Well, it brings it up, but it just doesn't answer it very well. Is what I'm trying to say. It does a good point in bringing them up, especially in conversations with the android David, who, Michael Fassbender plays him. He did fucking magnificently in this movie. He was awesome. He was the best part. Well, because Michael Fassbender is the man to end all men. Okay, that's sound weird, but he's the man. He kicks ass, and he does so in this movie. He's eccentric, he's funny, and he's unpredictable. Anyway, getting back to the questions of faith. That's the main thing I think that Ridley Scott tried to add in when he decided to make this more than just an Alien prequel, because apparently it was supposed to be just a straight Alien prequel, except I guess in his mind, the xenomorph had lost its zeal. Everyone had seen exactly what it is, and up to the point where you could get a fucking tattoo of the thing if you wanted to. So I guess he just decided to go and talk about the space jockeys and where we come from and how that relates to that. I mean, there is an image of a xenomorph on the wall behind the giant head that you see in the trailer. You will see this in the trailer too. There's a xenomorph on the wall with its freaking arms, you know, spread out like this in this Christ-like pose from end to end, just standing there with its head down like this. It's really interesting. Apparently, the engineers, as they're called in the movie, they're not called space jockeys. They're called engineers. Ugh. I like space jockeys better. Anyway, they regard it as some sort of a biological weapon. It comes from this black liquid that David gets into the main character Shaw's boyfriend. They poisons a drink with him. They fuck, and then she gives birth to this fucking squid. It literally is. Well, I mean, a squid that she gives birth to. And which is miraculous too, because she's sterile. She only gets pregnant, and then she forcibly has this ripped out of her stomach, like through some surgical thing. Big spoiler. And then it's really this squid thing. And then later on, when they go wake up one of the engineers, because Wayland, played by Guy Pearce in jackass grandpa makeup. I mean, literally, he looks like one of the grandpas from Jackass. You know, the characters that Johnny Knoxville and the others play. That's what he fucking looks like. It wasn't too distracting, but it was funny just to think about him. That would have been awesome if Johnny Knoxville suddenly showed up, did a fucking stunt in the grandpa outfit. Anyway, and so basically they wake up one of the engineers because Wayland doesn't want to die. The engineer's having nothing of it. Well, I'm calling him a space jockey. The space jockey is having none of it. And so he fucking kills Wayland, knocks David's head off, and David's fine because he's an android. And so they end up, the captain, played by Idris Elba, who is another great character, has to crash the Prometheus into the alien ship, into the space jockey craft, it looks exactly like the one that you see on LV-426 in Alien and in Aliens, although it's not the same one. Big spoiler and a disappointment there. And yeah, so he crashes into Prometheus, and then the squid thing from earlier, it turns basically into a giant face hugger. And I mean giant. It's bigger than the fucking space jockey, who is at least 10 feet tall. It is a big motherfucker. And another thing I should mention, they have our DNA. So they're our ancestors. And we somehow re-evolved into them, I guess. And then, it turns, the big squid face hugger thing latches onto his whole fucking body, not just the face. And then later, after Shaw and David's head fly off to the space jockey's planet to see what's up while they wanted to kill us, the Proto Alien emerges. It doesn't burst out of its chest, though. It carves open from its neck down to its chest. It comes out fully formed, which is interesting. It's a lot different than the chest burster. And so it looks kind of like an alien, except it has like a really, I want to say a teardrop shaped head with none of like the exposed like veins and stuff. And it's just a teardrop shaped head. It opens its mouth and then it extends forward, and it has like, the little bitey tongue thing that the aliens have. It doesn't look a lot like it looks a lot like the aliens, the traditional xenomorph, but it's not exactly the same. So those are the major spoilers, I guess. Anyway, I thought it was really good. I was a bit disappointed by the fact that it was just a big cock tease trying to trick us into thinking that it had a lot to do with Alien. which is I guess what it set out to be originally before Scott changed it. And you can tell it changed it because it brings up the ideas of faith, faithlessness. Where do we come from? Is there a place for God? Do you believe? How does this fit into the natural order? How does this fit into the human mind? The concept of creation and whether you can just create just for the sake of creating, just because you can. And it was a bit disappointing on that end because it didn't fully answer it. It just kind of brought it up. It bring it up occasionally. It was at its best when it was a creature feature, a space creature feature. Not really a space creature feature, I guess, because they're on a planet. It's a lot like ours, except there's a lot of argon gas, so you can't breathe all of it. And another thing I saw the reviewers call this was, dude, don't touch this, the movie, which is basically what it was. People are just touching shit. And touching shit. David's going around touching shit. And they're just handling shit for no reason. And they're just playing with the creatures, like, oh, aren't you so cute? It's fucking stupid at times. But, you know, there were good characters, particularly Shaw. Vickers, played by Charlize Theron, was, you know, typical. Almost, even the captain had to ask if she was a fucking robot. And that somehow got him an invitation into her bedroom. And of course my favorite was David, played by Michael Fassbender, who was awesome as usual. Very obsessed with Lawrence of Arabia. Very eccentric almost. Had this tone where even the slightest innocent things, like he was saying, had sounded like it had malicious intent. I don't even think he knew what he was doing. I think he just set up the whole chain of events with the Squid thing just because he wanted to see what would happen. So there might be a sequel. The thing at the end is definitely sequel bait. I don't know if Scott's going to go there, if he's going to make another Blade Runner or whatnot, but I would like to see some of this stuff answered. You know, how do we get from this proto-xenomorph to the xenomorph that we know? Because apparently, if you remember in Alien, the space jockey there had been like that, had it burst out of its chest, which is not the Proto Alien that I described earlier, clearly, because it didn't slice it right down his fucking midsection. And of course he'd been fossilized, so he'd been there a long time. I just want to know how this all ties into the greater story. I mean, does it kind of tie in a way because the Weyland company got images of the space jockey ship, and then they found one in LV-426, and so they sent the Nostromo crew there? Is that how it goes? I don't know. Well, anyway, I would recommend you go see this movie. This is my first attempt at a movie vlog, so please excuse me if it's not less than perfect. Some spoilers, obviously, because I have to talk about what happened. Obviously, this is anticipated from how it relates to the Alien movies, which it does kind of, but not really. Which I guess is the idea. It's a prequel, but it's not. It's more of a side story. Alright, anyway, so go see it. It's even good in 3D. Alright, I'll come back with more videos. This is Tronton, signing off.